Well, we all want on our gravestone, he was loved, and that's true. So I first met Brian when he was 12 years old, and I was 13, and we were driving our way to Servite High School, where we are right now, and we would carpool together for the next 4 years. It was a different time. There were no phones, no internet, much less distraction, more engagement, a lot more time for friends. Every school day from then on, and many weekends, every class we were together, there were no electives at this school. You took Latin, you took religion, you took history, and we were all in the same class. Well, I didn't get enough of Brian, so we had lunch together every single day for 4 years. Right over here, it was called Honors Hill, and that was our place, and there were many amazing discussions there. We had a great class. We were directed by David Molina, who was the greatest producer of all times. He helped us create the soccer team. We made movies, and we just had a great time. Brian was so handsome. We were always so jealous of him. He always had a girlfriend. I never had a girlfriend. Maybe if I didn't go to a boys' school, it would have been different, but who knows, you know. We had trips to Los Angeles to see movies. We had expeditions to Northern California to look at college. Well, it wasn't really to look at colleges. It was mostly other things, but that was the excuse we gave our parents. We discovered unknown singers in San Francisco like Elton John for a $3 ticket. We made movies of peace marches. This was all during Vietnam. Late in the summers, later in our career in high school, we worked at my dad's factory, and we made garbage disposals. We used to joke that our summers were going down the drain. But we learned life lessons there with Mitch, the supervisor. Brian told me one day that Mitch came up to him rather poignantly and said, "Brian, don't you and Tom end up here like me. You guys finish college." He also told us to marry a woman that can fix a roof. We both went to UC Irvine as freshmen, still sharing some classes and many friends. Brian, we were in the beginning survey course at Irvine, and we had to do a paper every single week. But Brian was known throughout the college as writing actually the best papers. There was lots of discussion about Vietnam at that time. Brian, I think of all the people I knew, was the only one that was applying to be a conscientious objector. I was thinking about Canada if we had to go. But, unfortunately, he got a low lottery number, but fortunately the war kind of wound down and he didn't have to go. A lot of backpacking trips to the Sierras. I looked like a bum on these trips. He always looked great. We did long bike rides together, sleeping on the beach in Lake Elsinore, riding up Ortega Pass. We never had enough water. And I remember coming down, we were so thirsty, just bone dry, and we found this fruit stand, and we bought these peaches, and they just exploded in our mouths. They were so good. One of my great memories. After a year at Irvine, he was off to UCLA, and I was off to Chicago. I tried to get him interested in sailing, but he got seasick all the time and no fun, no boats for him, and no horses for me. He came all the way to Wisconsin to be the best man at my wedding. After college, we would get together. He was in law school at USD in San Diego, and I was at medical school there. But then we had these busy times of careers and children's and our lives, and so you tend to see your high school friends last. Fortunately, the reunions brought us back together, especially in the last 15 years. We began to lose classmates, and we had the feeling that time was slipping away. So Brian and Dan Gray and some others created this great thing called Burgers and Beer, and we would get together, and it's been really a highlight of my life to continue to see these great guys from Servite High School to help the school in a number of ways. We just had a gathering a few weeks ago, and it was fantastic. Really spectacular people that we met at this school. And Brian was always a part of that. Anytime somebody needed anything, Unfortunately, anytime there was a funeral, Brian was always there. I think, as you can tell from what other people said, you could always count on Brian. It was mentioned Gary Beckman, who's here, and Paul, his brother-in-law. We went to his birthday party several years in Las Vegas, and we had really the honor to meet his cowboy friends and see this other part of his life that we had heard about. But it was clear that there was this whole other group of people that cared and loved Brian as much as we did. And, you know, there's one thing in your life: you cannot have enough love. You know, and by giving away love, you don't lose any of it, and you can never get enough. And Brian was so generous with his life and his caring, always a ready smile, happy, would give you, literally give you the shirt off his back. In November, Brian had this devastating stroke, and it's just shocking. It just was so sick to me that this articulate, literate man couldn't speak for a while. Fortunately, it came back, and, you know, but it did get us back together. You know, I would call him a lot. I didn't want him to go through this alone. I talked to him very often. I'd check in and try to give him what medical advice I can. He stopped working then, really worked hard on his recovery. He told me he would walk to doctor's appointments, and he was doing a lot of speech therapy. And I think he was very frustrated because his speech wasn't perfect, but my God, it was great. And then the course of this, and this was only last November, I think this is maybe only 2 months ago, he called me and said that they had found lung cancer in him, and that was being worked up. My God, this was not fair. So I called friends at City of Hope to see him, and I helped him set up appointments for this. I said, Brian, you have to go to the best place you can. You know, I have patients that have lung cancer. It's not always a death sentence. We'll get you through this. And, you know, he was always upbeat, always optimistic. Just before his last stroke, I called on him to check in and tell him about, you know, and see how he was doing and stuff. And he had told me he'd contacted them. I encouraged him. At the end of the conversation, I just had this feeling. I said, Brian, you know, I love you very much. And he told me that he loved me. And that was our last conversation. Tomorrow's Easter, the resurrection. Really the answer to the eternal question, what in the heck comes next? The apostles knew that Jesus died, and they were destroyed by this realization. Then he appeared to 10 of them, and they knew that he was still with them. Thomas, my namesake, wasn't with them, and of course he didn't believe it. And so Jesus had to actually come back again, and until Thomas put his hands in his wound, then he believed. You know, Brian, always being the leader, always being the smart one, Brian knows what the answer is now. I'm sure of it. What comes next? We all have to decide, what do we believe? The resurrection in many ways doesn't make any sense. My many atheist friends are good people who believe this life is one and done. For me, I choose to believe that this life is much more mysterious than that, more gracious, more hopeful than I have any right to expect. So Brian, Godspeed, and I will see you on the other side. We all miss you terribly until then, but we won't forget you and the wonderful times that we had with you. Thank you, Brian.
Hello, my name is Michael Nunez. I went to Servite High School along with my twin brother Mark and Brian for 4 years. In that 4 years, I did not know Brian well. And in fact, the most dealing I had with him is in my senior year when I joined the Servite soccer team, not because I enjoyed soccer, but solely for getting me ready for the track season. So over the last 15 years, as the class of 71 would get together for our various burgers and beer and reunions, I got to know Brian. And it got to a point where we would always enjoy each other's company by sharing our hobbies. He would share with me some stories about cowboying or riding, and I would share with him some stories about ski racing and boating. And the one story I'd like to share with you that I found very humorous and he found very entertaining is he was in Wickenburg. I know Wickenburg because we travel from Parker to Phoenix towing our boat for various ski activities there. There is nothing in Wickenburg, believe me. Anyways, he told me this story where they had settled down for the evening, and he had tied his horse up, and he took his bedroll and put it over there by his horse. Well, before he settled down for the evening, he had to take a pee, and he peed on his horse's leg. So he turned in, and shortly after turning in, the horse took a pee, and it traveled all the way down to his bedroll. So I could see the smile on his face, and now it makes sense that he did like to entertain. So, thank you.
All right, well, thanks everybody for sharing a little something. Now we got one last little cowgirl up here. This is my daughter, Faulkner, who wants to read a little poem. You got it, girl?
This poem is, I think it's pretty nice. It's called A Cowboy's Final Ride. Out on the range where the wild winds blow, he rode with a spirit that all cowboys know. Hat tipped low and boots worn with pride, through life's dusty trails he took every stride. The stars were his lantern, the moon lit his way. He chased every sunset, the end of each day. A heart full of courage, a soul running free, he hoped all his dreams beneath the wide prairie sea. Through storms and through sunshine he never did fall. With grit and with grace he gave it his all. His hands bore of calluses of years on the land, each wrinkle a story, each moment unplanned. Now the herds moved on to that heavenly place where the skies are forever and there's no more rain. His saddle is empty, his laughter now still, but his legacy lingers on every hill. The crack of his whip, or gavel, and boots on the ground echoes in hearts where his memories are found. So here's to the cowboy now riding the sky, under God's golden sun where heroes don't die. He's found greener pastures, his work finally done. Rest easy, old friend, your last ride's begun.
All right. All right, so if y'all want to pop outside now, we got some food and drink and music, and everybody can say the stories that you didn't feel like saying out loud. Thank you.